Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the METS Mets of New York town. Oh, the butcher and the baker and the people on the streets, where do they go? To meet the Mets! Oh, they're hollering and cheering and they're jumping in their seats. Where do they go? To meet the Mets! All the fans are true to the orange and blue, so hurry up and come on down, 'cause we got ourselves a ball club, the Mets of New York town. Give 'em a yell!
Sorry, I apologize. Sorry about that. I had myself on mute, but that's okay. We're going to start over. Welcome to Mets Talk Live. I am sorry about that, guys. I had my mic on mute because I was talking to somebody. I apologize for that. All right, you hear me now, right? We're good? All right. All right, 1 second, guys. Let me just make sure everybody can hear me. I apologize for that. Wow, I had a good intro and I just messed it up. That's all right. All right, guys. I apologize for that. All right. So, welcome to Talking Mets at Rob. Welcome to Mets Talk Live. Unfortunately, for our New York Mets, we are finally talking about a series loss after the first time since the last day of May into the first 2 days of June against the Arizona Diamondbacks, as they have not lost a series since then until this last series against the Astros. And I don't want anybody to get deterred, get upset, or give up on a team, because there was a lot of that on social media yesterday talking about, oh, ever since the quote-unquote oh my God concert with Jose Iglesias, the Mets are 0-2. Come on, guys. Seriously, no Mets fan cared about them losing because of that, right? That was a moment where you saw the whole team become a family, become one, become a team that nobody thought can have chemistry like that. So listen, guys, it sucks, but I talked about this during the first pregame against the Astros. This is the other hottest team in baseball other than the Mets. There's a strong possibility that the Mets could have lost this series, right? They didn't get swept, which was the one thing they could not do, right? They lost the last 2 games of the series, but we are facing one of the teams that is the hottest team in baseball other than the Mets. The Mets are the hottest team in the National League, and the Astros were the hottest team in the American League. So we knew this was going to be a tough series, right? The only thing that really pissed me off yesterday was that the Astros really didn't have a starting pitcher yesterday. They were basically using a bullpen game. And look, the Mets came back. They should have won the ball game in the 10th when they tied the ball game. When Nimmo hit the tie game, the double for the tie game, they had a guy on second with nobody out, with your big boys up. So nobody did the job, and they should have won that game yesterday. In the 10th, should have been talking about another series victory going into Washington. So, they had their opportunities. It's not like the Mets, floundered their opportunities. They fought back in the ball game when the Astros were basically taking over the game. They came back. Vientos with the 2 RBIs. You got Nimmo with the big home run, and nobody did the job when Nimmo was on second base with nobody out. You can't do nothing about that, right? And Brad, that's the other thing too, was that the Mets had an opportunity in both of these last 2 games to win ball games. We could have been talking about a series win or possibly a sweep, right? That's how close it was. So the Mets were close enough, and this is why I'm not crazy upset. Even though the score looks bad, 10-5, we know how close the game was, right? We know that. So this is why I'm not as mad. Like, look, I'm disappointed because we lost the series, and I wanted to keep that train rolling. But just because you lost 2 games and lost the series, start back a winning streak and start back winning series. And it starts with Washington tonight. So, it's frustrating, but we lost because of the reasons why. We knew we were going to have issues, and that was the bullpen. And listen, for anybody who's getting on Stearns or getting on the organization of, they need to do things, they need to make moves, or, Stearns is supposed to be a master of the bullpen. Well, when you have 4 injuries of 4 guys that you had trusted in your bullpen, and on top of that, having a suspension of your closer, I don't care who you are. It's almost impossible to make perfect changes to help the bullpen enough, right? Maybe they will do that over the next couple of days. As you can see, game 3 and 4 is TBD. That can be a Jose Butto, Christian Scott game, possibly. So, and there's going to be people coming up from the minors as well. But again, guys, trades are not really happening right now, right? There was a couple of rumors that the Mets are looking at the White Sox Crochet as an option, even though he's a starter. But they're looking at that as well. Maybe they'll get a starter and make sure they move somebody in the bullpen from the rotation. That could be an option as well. So the reason why I'm not so mad, I am disappointed that they lost, but I'm not mad, and I think this team will be fine, was that they had chances to take over a ball game. They had chances to win the ball game, because nobody would be talking about the bullpen today if the Mets would have won in game-winning fashion in the 10th inning. Nobody would have been talking about the bullpen, because when you get to extra innings and when the Mets bullpen was depleted, Severino did his job. He got us through 7, right? Once you got to extra innings, we all knew that it was going to be Festa and anybody else who they would have brought up, guys that shouldn't be in this bullpen, but have to be because of all the injuries and the suspension of Diaz. Ichiro, yeah, why not? I mean, we're a game under. And there's a pretty good chance that the second and third wild card is probably not going to be more than 4 games over 500. Definitely not the third wild card team. So, yeah, the Mets can, of course they can, right? We have to understand, we played 3 months of a season, right? In April, we were above 500 for the month. May, we had a terrible month, 9-19, 10 games under, right? If we would have had a 500 May, or even close to 500, say 2 or 3 games under 500, instead of being 10 games under 500 in May, this team would be a few games over 500, and we'll be talking about where the San Diego Padres are and probably trying to catch the Braves. That's the difference. So they've had in April, that was above 500. They had a June that was well above 500. And they had a May that was 10 games under 500. That's why you can't have a terrible month. You can like the Mets can have a July that's right above, right at 500, either a game below or a game over, and they'll be right in the mix. They'll be around that 500 mark. And that's where you need to be when you get to the deadline, because all that matters is being within striking distance. And look, the Mets lost the last 2 games, and yeah, they lost a half a game because when the series started, we were a game out, right? We won, but the Cardinals won 2 out of the last 3, so we lost basically a half a game. If you look at the loss total, it's basically a game. So I don't care about the 2 games because they played let's see, 2 more games than us, St. Louis. You're only looking at the loss column, right? We're looking at the loss column. We're a game behind St. Louis and 2 games behind San Diego. I look at the loss column because that's all that matters. So, and by the way, we got the tiebreaker against the San Diego Padres, which is important, right? St. Louis, we'll see. But yeah, I wouldn't say we choked hard the last 2 games because the Mets did come back, right? The Mets could have just, went on their merry way and lost 4-2 or 4-0, right? They came back in the ball game. This is why I'm not so worried, because the offense still has been extremely good, right? They scored a ton. They scored 6 runs in game 2. They scored 5 runs in game 3, excuse me. So they're still scoring runs. The starting pitching has been good enough to keep you in the ball game, right? Everybody got mad about Tyler McGill's start when what he gave you is exactly what you should have been expecting, right? 5 1/3, 4 runs. He left with a lead. All you want from your starters, especially your back end of the rotation starters, is get you out of this game with the lead. He did that. Now, do I want Tyler McGill in the rotation moving forward? No. But for people who saying it was a bad start, isn't paying attention or doesn't care about what 5th starters or back end of the rotation guys are. Back end of the rotation guys is anything above 5 innings or more, which would be outstanding, and probably 3 or 4 runs. How can you ask for anything more from a back end of the rotation guy? You don't get that mostly at all. Look at the 4th and 5th starters on almost every team. Their average innings per game is just under 5. And the league average is just under 5, over 5 for a starting pitcher. That's where baseball is today. And for people, and there was people in the chat before game 2 was saying, oh, McGill's probably only going to go 3 innings. Well, he should have went well above your expectations going 5 1/3. Just because we lost the ball game, don't blame the starter who left with a lead. That makes no sense. See, yesterday, we could say that Severino should have done a better job. Yeah, he went the length, but he gave up too many runs. I'm sorry. You are the ace of the staff. You need to be better. Let's talk about that. Right? In my opinion, your best starter should go 6 innings with 2 runs or less, because you are our best player, best pitcher. But no, you didn't do that. You went 7, which was well needed, but you gave up 4 runs. Right? That we can't have that happen. You can go 7 innings every time, but you can't give up 4 runs. You're our best starter. Right? The Mets might have won the ball game despite giving up less than 4 runs. But it's hard to kill Severino because he's been so good. But yesterday wasn't a good start for Severino. Sorry. Right? I'd rather take 6 innings of 2-run ball than 7 innings of 4-run ball. No, Drifter, I understand that. He didn't give up hard contact, but he also wasn't putting enough people away when it mattered. That was the issue, right? Chris talks about it a ton on all the shows, right? The Mets pitching, now Severino's done a better job of that, but unlike yesterday, most of the Mets pitchers or starting pitchers find a way to not have that put away pitch to either limit the damage or have no damage at all. And even though he was giving up light contact, they were finding the holes, they were dropping. And it's hard to kill Severino because of that, but you got to get those guys out. Do we care if it's a bloop or a ball over the wall? It amounted as the same result. as them scoring runs. So he didn't limit the damage when he needed to. And ultimately, that cost the Mets. Right? We can talk about the bullpen all we want, but when you get to the end of the game and you get into extra innings, well, guess what? You're going to see Mo, Larry, and Curly in this game because you're limited on bullpen arms. And the Mets are struggling to find arms when you have many injuries in this bullpen. Well, yeah, Jeff, as well. Look, Vientos has played extremely well. I don't want to kill him, but that footwork in extras, you can't do that because that costs a couple of runs there. You can't do that. Can I live? I know. Everybody wants that. Buzz Talk, I haven't heard that, but you might be right. Jack Flaherty is interesting. For Parada, again, Parada's kind of expendable at this point. It's just dependent on, what teams, and I'm just going to look at it really quickly with the Jack Flaherty situation. I know he's on Detroit. Not bad. 3.24 ERA, 5-5 record, and that's pretty good. He got 115 strikeouts. That's damn good with a 1 whip. That's nasty. So he's been very good this year. I wonder if Detroit, listen, I'm not gonna not trust Stearns because it's hard to trust Stearns in a offseason when he retained a lot of the main guys for this team, right? There was not a lot of work. There wasn't a lot of change he can do except for the starting pitching and the bullpen. And he had to put a lot of, guys together because as most Met fans thought this season was going to be, was a transition year. So going into the season, we know what this season was meant to be, but sometimes plans change based on what the Mets have done, right? David Stearns is not going to be in sell mode just because he thought before the season started that this was going to be a transition year, and he probably believed he was going to sell at the deadline. Plans change. So I don't expect him to be in full sell mode unless they fall apart over the next couple of weeks. So I'm not going to not trust Stearns until I see the deadline, right? If the Mets make him become buyers, then let's judge him based on the trade deadline. Let's base him on this offseason, right? Right now, we can only base him on what he done this offseason. And could we be honest, guys? Did anybody believe this team would be a 500 team? Because a lot of people didn't, right? A lot of people had this team dead and buried 11 games on the 500. So the way I see it, Stearns has did a pretty good job with not adding tremendous amount of payroll and not messing up next offseason with a ton of payroll coming off the books with a lot of 1-2 year deals or technically expiring contracts, which he did. So he gave himself options not only at the trade deadline to become buyers or sellers, he also gave himself a big option and a ton of less payroll for this offseason to do what he needs to do. So if the Mets do become buyers, he's going to have to give up a prospect here or there, maybe 2, maybe 3, because we have too many infielders as it is. We have too many guys in similar positions where you probably can't use them anyway. And if Mauricio is going to be a big part of the team, which we all expect, right? There's a pretty good chance Jeff McNeil, who is playing better, is going to be a guy who is going to be on the trade market, and you might get something for him if he's starting to play better. So if McNeil brings back a starter or a bullpen arm, you do that. And then you can bring up Beatty and put him at second base. Or you can use a Jose Iglesias for second base, right? The good news with the Mets right now is that we thought we needed the third baseman. But ever since Vientos took over the job, you don't have to worry about third base anymore. So really, all you really are worrying about is maybe another starter and a couple of bullpen arms. So there's a lot of options here for David Stearns. But before we talk about David Stearns and what he needs to do at the deadline, he doesn't need to do nothing because you really can't do nothing right now. Now, maybe he can pull off a move early in July But right now, you're working with what you got. And that's not Stearns' fault because a lot of teams aren't trading yet. Even if they're teams that know they're going to be sellers at the deadline, why only listen to the Mets and take a deal from the Mets when you can wait a couple of weeks and have competition for that same player? So it's not within the team's best interest who are trading players to trade right now, because if you're going to trade those guys and multiple teams want them, don't you want the best deal possible? So that's the way I see it. So Stearns is probably working the phone right now, but that doesn't mean the other team is just going to trade because David Stearns wants a pitcher. It doesn't work like that. Now, do you want David Stearns to overpay because it's early and a few weeks before the deadline? Like, I don't want to overpay if I don't have to. Now, we might be we might be a little bit desperate at this point, and teams know that. That's the other thing. We know that other teams that are going to be sellers know that the Mets are desperate right now for bullpen help. So they're going to try to get as much as they possibly can. They're going to try to, make the Mets overpay. Do you want to overpay? Now, if you're willing to overpay, in my opinion, I don't care about prospects. I don't. I'd rather get proven players in here for a team that showed you that they can remain in this, that they fought back when nobody thought they can. So I'd rather get the proven players. If I have to give up a couple of prospects, I'm doing it. Because I can care less about 2025 and 2026. That is irrelevant to me. Because I always see prospects as prospects that more likely than not are going to fail or not going to be the players that we thought they were going to be. So I'm not really worried about prospects. And in all honesty, though, David Stearns, a lot of these guys aren't his guys. He didn't trade for these guys. He didn't draft these guys. So we don't know exactly what he likes, what players he likes. Just because we like some players doesn't mean that he does. He might have he might have a list of guys, our top 20 prospects. He might have 4 or 5 of them that he's willing to trade to get better. So, yeah, Drifter, see, I don't, the right player to overpay, yes, but I don't like overpaying for relievers. And you're right, relievers usually aren't the right player. Like, they aren't the creme of the creme. But if there's 2 or 3 teams that are looking for one of the better relievers on the market, you bet your ass the Mets are going to have to overpay. So we're not going to probably like that. But here's my thing, right? I don't care, right? I care about 2024. I care about the 40 and 41 Mets who are 2 games out of a wild card spot and busted their ass over the last month to get back into this race when nobody thought so. So I'm ready. Do what you need to do. Make this bullpen better, because it's not like guys who are injured are coming back, right? Foley, not for a while, right? Drew Smith, not coming back. Raley, not coming back, right? Those are huge bullpen holes. So you're gonna have to get somebody that is good enough to replace these guys. You can't get guys that have a 4.5, 5 ERA just because you don't want to give a better prospect and lose out on the better pitcher just to fill a hole and not to have a guy that can actually be dependable for Mendoza. Because how do you think Mendoza feels right now? He's going out there. Now, if it's not Nunez and Young, like, who do you trust? Like, if I'm Mendoza right now, I'm going into the game, I'm like, my God. Like, I got to hope that these guys come through. Like, that's a tough position to be in when you're trying to win ball games. So I see it like this. Give me a major leaguer. Give me somebody that's proven over anybody that's not proven, right? I know the whole Christian Scott, Jose Buto thing, me and Chris got into it a couple of streams ago in regards to that. Like, he's willing to trade a Quintana, maybe put Minaya in a bullpen or trade him to put in Christian Scott and Jose Buto. Now, that all sounds pretty and it sounds nice and, it smells like roses, but there's no guarantee that Christian Scott or Jose Buto is going to get them through the gauntlet of the summer and to keep this team relevant. And yeah, Jose Quintana and Sean Manaea might get you something, might get you a couple of bullpen pieces, but there's no guarantee that's going to be the better choice, right? I'd rather have some veterans in. Like I like the young kids, absolutely, but why not use one of these two prospects in Jose Butto or Christian Scott? Use one in the rotation and one in the bullpen, and see if that works. Whichever one you believe is a better starter, put him out in a starter. If you want to put him in the bullpen to help your bullpen, do that. So you can use them, but I don't like completely changing up a rotation because we believe that it's a better idea, that they're just going to be better just because they're more talented. Well, yeah, they have the talent, but we've seen that before. More talent doesn't mean better results all the time. Hey, Frank, how you doing? Yeah, I agree, Drifter. But you know what? It's hard to do that without giving up multiple assets to do so, because we lost a lot over a month. You know, Raley gone, Smith gone, Jorge Lopez DFA'd, right? That's a tough go of it. Sean Reed Fuller hurt. That's a lot of arms, especially those with arms that were actually pretty decent and pretty good. Raley was a huge loss, right? Drew Smith, even though a lot of Mets fans don't like him, was having a really good season for the Mets and was one of Mendoza's trusted arms out of the bullpen. So, and then with the Diaz suspension, that really put everything in perspective. Like, damn, that's not good. So, in my opinion, I do what we have to do. But again, it's going to be very hard to trade right now unless you give a little bit more than what you're willing to give to get bullpen arms in here. Now, maybe the Mets are looking for a starter, you know, a good starter, so they can move one or two or one of these guys in a rotation to the bullpen and add a starter of quality. Maybe they are going to use one of Christian Scott or Jose Butto in this bullpen and then use the other one as a starter, and also trade for a starter and move maybe a Manaea to the bullpen, who was very successful in San Francisco when they moved him to the bullpen. So you might have two starters in Hauser and Manaea who were in this rotation to begin the year, now in your bullpen. Now you might feel a little bit better about the bullpen because Hauser has been tremendous in this bullpen and can give you multiple innings. And if you can have Danny Young with Diekman and Sean Manaea, you got two guys that can go multiple innings in Hauser and Manaea, and you got multiple lefties as well. It might help your bullpen along with helping your rotation with bringing up either Scott or Butto in there, or put them both in there and move Manaea into the bullpen. And now you replace McGill and Manaea with Butto and Christian Scott. We could do that as well. Oh, Frank, well, you don't know if anybody wants Tyler McGill, though. That's the issue, right? We don't know that. So, and McNeil, I think McNeil is still a trade candidate. Like, you can probably get a quality starter for McNeil, maybe even a good bullpen arm, especially if he's going to play a little bit better over these next couple of weeks. So, we'll see, right? We're not there yet, right? We know we need bullpen help, but it's very hard to get on the trade market at this point. So what Stearns is working with right now is trying to find anything in the farm system and trying to mix and match maybe a bullpen starter who is a starter you throw in there, and you got to mix and match with a couple of starters. That's really all he can do right now. So the bullpen is a work in progress, and that's unfortunate for the Mets, but that's what they have to do because that's all they can do right now. So what's more important is this National Series, right? The Nationals have fell off a little bit, right? They were in a wildcard spot, a game or two over 500. They're back down to a couple of games under 500 and a few spots back of the Mets. These games are very important. One, you can kind of bury the Nationals. Two, you need tiebreakers. If the National League wildcard is going to be this close for the rest of the season, you need to win these tiebreakers. You need to have the better record against teams that you're fighting for a playoff spot. Because the last thing I want is to be at the end of the season and we don't make the playoffs because of a tiebreaker. That will piss me off. So you got to win these games. The Mets are better than the Nationals. I'm sorry to say, they're better than the Nationals. Now, their pitching is very good, right? Their lineup has been suspect a little bit, but they could be dangerous. But their pitching is good. You know, they got Gore, they got Hurst, they got Parker, they got Irvin. Quality, really good starters. So we're definitely gonna really got to try to hit this pitching because they're very good. Right now, it's only Peterson and Minaya that is on the docket for this series. We don't know about Wednesday and Thursday yet. We're assuming it's probably going to be Christian Scott or Jose Butto, or maybe both. We don't know. We'll find that out very shortly. I just checked it before I went live. I haven't seen them change anything yet, but I'm going to double check since I'm live right now to see if they put a starter there, but I don't think they did. Let's see. All right, let's see. Yeah, it's still TBD. So we're not going to know. I'm assuming it's going to be either Christian Scott or Jose Butto for Wednesday, but it might be both of them Wednesday and Thursday. We'll see about that. Yeah, Drifter, I find that very hard to believe. I find that very hard to believe it's not going to be as close as it looks now. Because there's right now, the Padres are 4 games over 500. Nobody has been more than 4 games over 500 in the second wild card all season. So maybe that will be possible, but there's a pretty good chance that the third wildcard team is going to be within a game or two over 500. Like it's been look, it's a half a season already. Like unless teams like these teams aren't good enough to be 8, 9, 10 games over 500. At least the second and third wildcard team. I don't see that at all because they've gone through stretches over a week or two where they played very well, but then they have a next 2 weeks of under 500 baseball, and they're right back where they are right now. So I think there's going to be about 5, maybe 6. I'm going to say about 5 teams from the second wildcard teams to where like Pittsburgh is right now. Those 5 teams are going to be in the mix, in my opinion. I think anybody where Washington, Cincinnati, and Chicago are probably going to be sellers. So that's what I think. Yeah, I do agree with that. But you know what? I'm going to leave Pittsburgh in there. But again, don't take Washington out yet because they could beat the Mets. If they beat the Mets, they're right back in the Mets. And we're talking about the Mets being one of those teams that are probably not going to be in it, right? So this is why you got Washington, Pittsburgh, Washington over the next 3 series. 2 of those teams, look where they are. Pittsburgh and Washington are neck and neck. You want to bury those teams. If you knock Pittsburgh and Washington on their ass and win series, right? I'm not talking about sweeping, right? Because I know we want to be greedy. We all want sweeps, but it's very hard to sweep a 4-game set. And we're playing Washington for 4 and Pittsburgh for 4. Take 3 out of 4 against both of them. End up 6-2 in those 8 games. You kind of bury them, and 6-2 gets you 3 games. It gets you what 5 games over 500, right? If I'm doing the math correctly, maybe not. Let's see, 2 or 3 games over 500, and you'll probably be in a wild card spot. And then you got the Rockies after 2 National Series and 1 Pittsburgh Series. So the Mets are playing teams that they should be able to beat. Now it's baseball, shit happens. So we'll have to see. But the key to winning series is winning game 1, right? Mackenzie Gore is a badass pitcher, right? The Mets have been beaten up on good pitchers. So they got to keep that trend going, right? It's not like the Mets offense has been not scoring runs, right? They didn't lose this series because they didn't score runs. They lost this series because the bullpen didn't do their job. So I'm not worried about the offense because the offense scored 5 runs yesterday, 6 runs the day before, and they won a game in game 1. So I'm not worried about that. And Peterson's been good, right? His last start was kind of okay, but he's been pretty good for us. So we'll see. But I'm more making sure the offense continues to do what they're doing. Because if they do that, I'm pretty confident the Mets going to win more ball games than not. Right? We lost a ball game against the other hottest team in baseball the last 2 nights. And yesterday we should have won. If somebody would have came through in the 10th inning, we would be talking about a series win, and nobody would have been talking about the bullpen who gave up, a couple of extra runs and extra innings to lose a ball game. So, look, guys, it's unfortunate that we lost a series, but keep your heads up. Just because you lost 2 games in a row, still during this stretch, they're still the hottest teams in baseball. They're still the hottest team in baseball, or one of them. You go out today, and listen, the bounce back is more important right now. They need to bounce back. You got a 2-game losing streak, right? It's not a streak until you lose 3 in a row. Don't let that happen. Break that streak quickly. You win today, you're back to 500. That's what they got to do. They got to do what they have to do to win today. And you're going to have most of your guys available in the bullpen that Mendoza trusts. Not a lot of them, but they got a decent amount. So you're going to have Nunez available. So that's a good sign. So we'll see if Peterson can go deep because he's done it before. Let me just see something, guys. I want McNeil back in the lineup tonight. Right? I'm kind of a little upset that in game 2 McNeil wasn't in the lineup, but look, the Mets scored runs, so it's not like McNeil was going to score more runs, right? The Mets scored runs. So I can't get mad about that. So, if the Mets only scored 1 run, I would have been like, maybe McNeil in that lineup could have got us a couple extra runs, but they scored 6 runs. I'm not going to go crazy. So I think McNeil deserves to be in the lineup. That's what I want. But we'll see later tonight. The game starts at 6:40 tonight, 6:45 tonight in Washington. We got Peterson and Gore on the mound. Excuse me. Sorry about that. On the mound tonight, right? Chris won't be able to do pre and post for the next couple of days because CP is in Washington going to the games to see our beloved New York Mets. So, look, CP is undefeated going to Met games on the road. So let's see if he continues that trend and get us keep on that winning streak when he's there. So Chris is going to be at those games the next couple of nights. So we're going to let him enjoy. Oh, sorry. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry. It's been a long day, long night. Maybe I'll get Hector on. Maybe I'll get Hayden on for pre-games. I'm probably going to be – I can't do a post tonight, but I will be doing a pre and post tomorrow, and I'm going to do a pre and post on Thursday as well. So we'll make sure we'll take care of business there. So the walks have to stop, but they haven't yet as a staff. That's concerning, easy. So, but we'll see. Listen, this team has surprised many of us, right, over this stretch. They can't fall apart. Hopefully they don't. I don't think they will because the offense has shown no signs of stopping as they still scored a ton of runs in this series against the Astros team that actually pitched very well. So once again, guys, we got a pregame tonight around 5:30, 6 o'clock. I'll be there. Hopefully I'll have either Hector or Hayden to do a little pregame with us. And there will be no postgame tonight, unfortunately. But as CP just commented in the chat, CP, what's up, buddy? Enjoy yourself the next couple of nights and bring those winning ways. But we'll have a pre and post tomorrow. Pre and post on a pregame tomorrow, and Wednesday and Thursday will be a pre and post. So let's see. We got Peterson on the mound against Mackenzie Core. Let's see if the Mets get back into their winning ways. Do not lose tonight. Don't let that loser streak continue. Win by any means necessary. We got Peterson on the mound. Let's see what he can do. Peterson has shown signs of going. Excuse me, guys. Woo. Sorry, a little under the weather. David Peterson has shown signs to go 6-7 innings. We need that from him tonight. And the offense has been scoring runs. I think they're going to continue that. So with Chris in the house in Washington at National Park, he'll be cheering loud with a ton of other Met fans, probably with the DC Mets as well, cheering on our boys. Let's get a victory tonight. Let's get a victory tonight. Let CP winning streak continue. Go into these road games And with that said, guys, that is another Mets Talk Live in the book, the weekly show to talk about our New York Mets. The Mets finish up June 16-8, a badass June. Are 6-4 in their last 10, are 40-41. 2 games out of a wild card, but technically 1 game in the loss column. Let's see what our boys do over the next couple of games. With that said, guys, everybody have a great rest of their Monday. Let's go Mets. CP, enjoy the Mets games. Let's get those W's. I'll see you next time, guys. Have a great day, and let's go Mets.